Hello everyone, this is Asmodai, and here we are today painting, well, Asmodai. His new mini's on out, and I just want to do this the best I can, because, well, it's me. Alrighty then, for this mini I went ahead and separated each piece, and I'm going to prime them all individually and work on them individually, and at the very end I'll just tie them all together so it looks nice and cohesive. I'm going to spend extra time on this mini just because I love the sculpt and it looks really good. So I went ahead and primed each one and did a zenithal over all of them. And then I'm going to do some airbrushing on Asmodai himself to just get some rough color blocking out. Alright, I just did some airbrushing and now I'm going to go ahead and just tidy up my airbrushing. I did the base in Morghast Bone, and I did his hood in Caliban Green. I could have done the bone mixture I do for Deathwing, but I really liked the Morghast Bone and the way it can look on Asmodai, so I went with that. But I think if I ever do another one, I probably will stick to my bone mixture. It just looks really nice. So I'm going ahead and doing some of the leather bits here. I've do the leather bits in either Retributor or Morghast Bone. They kind of give a nice bright leather texture. And this one in particular, I actually went ahead and did some white edge highlighting on the leather before putting down the snakebite leather contrast, just to make sure it kind of has an extra level of pop so it looks like it's really handmade. And I think it turns out great. This is the other reason I decided to do the mini in pieces. It's just it makes it really easy to reach all around him and get all the good areas covered. And just like I did for his pockets, I'm also going to do for all the handles of the swords. We'll get them all covered on up and then we'll be all good to go. I went ahead and covered in his armor parts that are supposed to be black. Went ahead and did the rest of the leather, and now I'm moving on to the power pack. The power pack I am hitting with some black Templar contrast, just to kind of save some of the zenithal highlights, and just to get a nice uniform, kind of grungy dark looking color going on here. Sorry the camera goes in and out of focus here. It's hard holding this little tiny piece. It likes to focus on some of the incense trails and smoke trails than the actual pack. I will say, compared to the old Asmodai sculpt, I really like this one. This one is by far one of their best they've ever made. I love the plumage of the incense. It looks great. Alrighty then, here I am going ahead and basing some of the lower incense and smoke trails with basilicum gray and some black, just to really kind of make the dark edges of the smoke. And then I'm going to go through and progressively highlight on top of it with a mixture of white and basilicum gray to kind of get those nice gray tones. So I've already done some of that preliminary blending here, and now I'm just going to go on through, add in some mid-tones, high tones, and then the occasional shadow tone in some of those recesses. This was by far my favorite part to work on. It was a little hectic because it is a very large part of the mini, so you want to make sure it looks good, but I think I did a really good job on it, and it's honestly one of the most fun parts of it. Now, I could have done some of the blending work with an airbrush, but I really wanted to do this hands-on, just because it's a personal touch to it, and I think it really comes out really nice and smooth here. Alrighty then, I'm just going on through touching up Asmodai's hood here, fixing up some of those white spots that I missed. and just making sure we have a nice uniform color so that when we get on to the later steps of highlighting the folds in the fabric, that we are all set for. Now we're on to the engolding process, and here what we're going to do is we're going to get a nice thick layer of retributor all over his Crozius Arcanum and get that all ready to go. I love the name of that thing, it just sounds so much fun to say. We are still early on in the process, so if I nick anything on up with some other colors, there'll be a part during the very end where I'll be just doing some cleanup here. So as I go on through, you might see me plop a little bit of gold down here or there that's not meant to be, and we'll clean that all up by the end of this. Alrighty then, now it's on to his sword. Gonna go ahead and get this all gilded on up. I did the base of the sword in lead belcher, and then I did some spot highlights with runefang, and now we are gilding the top and the little stems of the sword in gold, and we will finish up from there. So we're doing the little iron head skull at the bottom, or helmet, based in Abaddon, and then going on over with some, I took lead belcher and added a bit of Abaddon to it to have a darker look to it. For Iron Warriors, I really like that. It really sticks out for them. It's better than just your standard lead belcher. It can be a little bit goopy, so just make sure you thin it down a bit. So now that we have all of the individual pieces done, we're going to start putting the mini all together here. I'm going to start by putting a little bit of glue onto his back to put on his power pack. So got his sword on, got him onto his base, and then we'll stick him onto his little round base so we can actually have him onto the paint handle. So I've done some of the highlighting around on his armor. I've gone over his black armor with a bit of gray for subtle highlights, and then a little bit of lead belcher to really cover up those spots. I got some gold onto the purity seals, but the nice thing is that when you cover them up with like ball red or blood angels red contrast, they kind of turn into free highlights. So you can do that if you want to, but that just kind of worked out as a happy accident for me. The camera was kind of screwing me over here because it does not want to focus, but I am painting in the lenses on the stabbed Iron Warrior. That's all good Iron Warrior should be. And then I put a little bit of red down there for some blood. Now we're on to the tying together process. So I am going on over with a bit of my custom sepia tone mixture I use for my Deathwing Knights. And I'm adding it to the recesses of the Morghast bone because it's subtler than just mixing up like a darker shade of it. And it'll start to kind of add that nice grungy Grimdark look to it, and this will give us some really good shadows. So as we finish up here, if you like what you see, go ahead and hit like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you wish to join me on my crusade to turn everything in Warhammer into Dark Angels. Alright, now let's get back to the miniature. I'm also adding some sepia tones here, as you can see, to some of the gold parts to just add a bit of pop and some shade difference, and that'll help it go a long way. Alright, now we are on to the fun part. We are going to be shading some of the cloth fabric for Asmodai's hood. So it's based in Caliban green, and I'm going to go through some warpstone glow and a little bit of moot just to make the folds of the fabric really pop. So I have my mixture of 50% warpstone glow, 50% Caliban, and I've thinned it down to a nice glaze consistency, and I'm stippling it around the area where I want the highlight to be to start build it up. And then I will end with a full 100% load of warpstone glow right down the center in a smaller area, and then add a bit of moot to just the highest points. And this is really going to bring out the fabric in a nice natural way. I like stippling highlights on, it looks really good. I'm touching up a little bit of brown spots here with some more snakebite leather to really get that nice brown texture down. And then we'll move on to the good old Runefang silver. So, going on through to all the bolts on the back, adding a bit of Runefang to really make that metallic pop. I'll even be adding a little bit of Runefang to the top of the Iron Halo and to the top of the little incense power pack exhaust ports. I've done some work to the base just to kind of tie it in some nice muted dark colors. And now I've gone between the base and the base of the clothing with a little bit of Urgrax Earthshade to just really make it cohesive and tied together. I'm also going to shade all the gold areas with a lot of Urgrax. It will really dull down the gold and give it some really dark spots and some really high light spots. The brown areas I will also hit with a little bit of Urgrax Earthshade to just add a little bit more natural tones to it. I'm also going to let a little bit of the Urgrax drip onto his gloves to kind of make it look like they're a bit grungy and dirty, because as we all know, Asmodai likes to get his hands dirty with his job. Touching up the leather, touching up the gold, and then after this we should be all good to go. I've added in the white striping around his hood. I went ahead and fixed some of the areas that were a little bit not so tidy before. For the Urgrax Earthshade, I'm going to start high and then drag my brush low so that the majority of the shading is left near the bottom edges of the cape, just so that it looks like it's being trudged around in some mud and dirt. Alrighty then, with him all done, let's get to the beauty shots. If you like what you saw here, go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I have Azrael and the Lion up next, and I have some Necrons, and I have some fun kit bashing videos coming down the pipeline. And I have in one of my comments from Warmonger Forge that he wants me to do a dreadnought of any kind for my Deathwing army. For that, I have a nice Ballistus Dreadnought from the Leviathan box that I've painted on up for my Deathwing. I'll have a video of that up soon, and then we'll go from there. Thank you for watching. Also, repent.